Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar with Tank Utility and Prince Gas. This webinar is all about how Prince Gas maximizes delivery efficiency while growing their business. My name is Christine Adams, and I'm going to be the MC for today. So before we get started, I just want to share a few housekeeping items with you. We're going to be sharing our screen for this webinar, so if you're just calling in, feel free to just listen, but also know that the link to the screen share should be in your email. We'll also be accepting questions throughout the webinar, so if you would like to submit a question, please use the Q&A panel to the right in the GoToWebinar screen. We'll answer during the presentation, and hopefully we'll have some time towards the end for questions as well. If your question doesn't get answered on the call, then we'll make sure to reach out to you directly after this webinar. So the presentation will be recorded, and we'll send an email to everyone who's registered for this with the recording and the slide deck after this presentation. So now that that's out of the way, let's move on to what everybody's here for. So we have two speakers on today's webinar. We'll have two panelists, including Raja Nagaraja, who's the Business Development Manager here at Tank Utility. And we're very excited to have our customer, Stephanie Bolding from Prince Gas. So Raj, why don't you take it away for us and kind of give everyone an overview of what's on the agenda today.
Sure. Thank you, Christine, for the introduction, and thanks for all for joining today. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Raj Nagaraja. I'm one of the business development managers here at Tank Utility. Been with the company for about 2.5 years, a little bit more at this point, and I'm excited to introduce you all to one of our best customers, and so you all can learn a little bit about her. In terms of an agenda today, we're going to be hearing from Steph first, just learning about herself and her company and where they've come from and where they're at today. And then we've got some questions. The questions are hitting on topics around delivery efficiency and how Steph's been able to grow her business while staying extremely efficient. The second piece of the agenda will be talking about strategy and how Steph is using her data and using that data to make impactful business decisions and placing these monitors. The third piece will be talking about using these monitors as a competitive advantage and how Steph has been able to use these monitors to differentiate herself in a more competitive market. As Christine outlined, the Q&A will be throughout, and we will get to those questions today. If not, we will definitely follow up and make sure that the questions are answered. And so, as you know, our panelists will be Steph Bolding. Steph's down at Prince Gas, which is out of South Carolina. And Steph, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and Prince Gas?
Yeah, thanks, Raj. Actually, our business started in 1932. My great-grandfather started the business back in the coal days, so we've always been in the heating business. And then we developed into fuel oil and then to propane. My brother and I are fourth generation, so my nephew will be our fifth generation. So our business has really grown, and we've just tried to keep everything family oriented, even to our customers. And that's one reason, we needed tank monitors, is because we don't have our father's brain. And my dad keeps up with the elderly people that are on his routes and things like that. So he can be driving down the road and say, oh, I should check on such and such because they might need gas. Well, I don't have his brain, so I need tank monitors so that I can have his brain to be able to get customers and know when they're going to need gas.
Great. Well, thank you for that introduction. You all have a long history, and you've been able to carry the torch into the future, and then it seems like that growth and into the future is still going to be happening with other people getting involved in the business moving forward. So yeah, you started to hit on efficiency and how you've used these monitors to fill in the void of past generations' brains. Let's throw some stats out there. You've gained hundreds of new customers since moving to a new office a few years ago, and you're averaging a drop size with these monitors around 54%. We typically see the industry average being somewhere in the 30 to 33% range, and you're in the top 10 percentile of all of our customers out there, sitting at a strong number 8. Tell us how you're doing it, or more specifically, how have you been able to keep up this growth, bring on all these new customers, deal with other changes in the business, and still maintain delivery efficiency?
I'll be honest, 4 years ago when we moved to our new location, I thought everybody knew about us. I mean, we've been around since 1932, but our town is really growing. In the first winter, not just year, the first winter, we picked up over 600 customers. With that being said, it was like, oh man, how am I going to keep up with this? So we decided, hey, if we have a tank monitor, let's put one on every route and let's put it on the customer that uses the most amount of gas on that route. So every morning, we come in and the first thing I do is look at my monitors. If I'm not here, I can always pull them up, on my phone, wherever I'm at. But first thing every morning, I check the monitors and I'm like, okay, where do I need to send my drivers today? And I will admit, I like to do big drops. So I don't mind waiting until a person is on 10% because I know they're going to be okay. So that's kind of how I do it with my routing. And as far as like restaurants and manufacturing places, things like that, I always put one on them because if they run out, their business stops, and that would not look good for us. Um, when I came in last week, I noticed that one route was in front of the other. And so it sometimes flip flops. I mean, you can't just say, okay, on Tuesdays, we're going to make sure every Tuesday we're at this certain area, because sometimes that area uses less gas and another area uses more. So those monitors really tell me where to send my guys out every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you hit on it right on the nail. I mean, when you bring on these new customers, you don't know their past usage, and so putting a monitor on there gives you that insight right away to make those business decisions on how you're going to deliver to them right off the bat, as opposed to going through a year of guesswork and figuring out their usage history.
Yeah,
Um,
and if I'm constantly, backtracking where I'm going, then that's not helping to save money to pass on to our employees and to pass on savings to our customers.
mhm. Yeah, you said so when you brought on those 600 new customers when you all opened that new office, you put a monitor on each route. That leads us to talk a little bit more about strategy and the placement of your tank monitors. You're using this data that you're collecting otherwise to decide on how you're going to manage your routes and understand your customers and which ones should be getting a monitor. Tell us about the data that is most important to you and how you're making the decisions for future monitor deployments.
Gotcha. Yeah. As far as like our tank monitors, if I see, I might put two or three on one route just to be on the safe side, especially if it's a colder area because the temperature is very so different around here. But one thing that we do make sure to do is to actually make sure the churches, businesses, like manufacturing plants, especially restaurants, all have a tank monitor on them. This past weekend, we knew it was going to be a long weekend, so I wasn't happy with some of my drop sizes because we had to go ahead and fill up because I knew they wouldn't make it through the entire weekend on restaurants. But we make sure that all of those have tank monitors so that we we don't have anybody mad at us or losing business. And then, I always tell other people, hey, if you need a tank monitor, so they have pool heaters, generators, or some people have a mountain home that they rent out and they live at the beach. You know, in those situations, those customers, I think it's adamant that they have a monitor on their tank for their security and our security.
Yeah, that's great. So it seems you're going in order of priority. I mean, you've got your commercial and your larger users as your first layer of monitoring deployment, the ones that are kind of no-brainers. I mean, you don't want to run those people out, but then you're also delivering the most of those accounts probably. So there's huge efficiencies to be gained right off the bat.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, and it's amazing how much people are like, I wouldn't I wouldn't mind you putting a monitor on, but I don't want to have a monitor on my tank. And then when that restaurant runs out of gas and they call me screaming, I can say this could have all been prevented if you had let us put a monitor on your tank.
Mm-hmm.
And no, of course they're like, we want a monitor because people really don't think about it, Raj. They go out, they look at the tank, and they're like, oh, we're on 30%. Well, if they do 4 or 5 days of a lot of extreme cooking, they're not going to even think about, oh, do we still have gas until they run out. So it's best for us to keep up with it and them not have to worry about it.
Yep, and they're not going to tell you when they're having an event and they're going to be using extra gas or anything, and so you have no clue unless you've got that monitor in place.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so other if you didn't have a monitor on a restaurant or a church, would your typical delivery schedule be a scheduled or a degree day? What would you typically do on those accounts?
Usually we do those on a schedule. So they would be on a route. But like I say, you never know how much they're going to be using, whether they're holding events or going to be open or doing more. So if, like, say I'm running a certain route and this other one runs out, I have to make a special trip to that one tank when it could have been prevented, and I could have been preparing for days because I'm watching their gas usage.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I could be preparing for days. Hey, on this day, we're going to be in this area. So if any of my calling customers call, I can go ahead and tell them, hey, we're going to be in your area on this day because I know this person's going to need gas.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's an often unspoken benefit to having tank monitors, and it's just that control aspect. I mean, maybe the restaurant or the church does want to deliver every week, and that's what they're used to. But by putting a monitor on there, you can change it to a week and a half and save on 10 deliveries in a year. Putting a monitor on an account that you're doing weekly delivers to, you don't have to change the behavior on that completely to break even and make it a positive investment. Because you're going every week, there's such a high number of deliveries there. You only need to save a few within that year to make it a benefit, and
Yeah.
having control throughout the entire week to know that, hey, it's 4th of July weekend. My trucks are going to be running all weekend, and I'd love to hit this account before, or I can wait a few more days and hit them after the weekend. You always have that insight, and it seems that's how you're using these monitors.
Yes, very, very true. Especially even with, Memorial Day weekend. I have people that have pool heaters, and I have one lady, I was like, yeah, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. And I kept checking her every day just to make sure. But we put gas in her tank today. So that was a big drop, but I was able to save it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of pool accounts, I mean, pool accounts, restaurants, or high-end homeowners, we typically see uh, marketers being able to use monitors as a competitive advantage and using that to win this type of business. Um, Talk to me about how you're using these monitors to create additional revenue by adding tank monitoring services to specific customers. Like, are you using these monitors to differentiate yourselves amongst other suppliers in the area to support growth? Like, how do you decide which customers are key to sell a monitor to?
Well, I often encourage all my people that have like multi homes, pool heaters, or generators to make sure and put a monitor on it because, you know, I check it. So it helps me to be able to check it. But for a fee once a year, they have I guess you would say the know of, oh, my tank's fine. I can look at it anytime. Um, and like, especially like multi homes, I have one customer, for instance. He lives up on the mountain, but he loves the beach. So he rents one of his cottages out. He had a monitor on his cottage, thank goodness. And he called me and he's like, can you go check my tank? He's like, I'm using so much gas. It's the middle of the summer. The heat shouldn't even be on. Well, what
Hmm.
had happened is the people that rented his cottage that weekend left the grill on. So the grill had been going the entire time using up gas. So that, we checked it out, found out what was going on, which I mean, it's good because, that could always cause a fire, but also it let him know, hey, something's not right. And like our generator customers, we had some bad storms this past winter and a lot of downed trees. And our generator people, usually when we hear storms coming, the first thing we do is we print the list out of who's got generators, make sure they're topped off. Well, there's a lot of people that turn the generators on and they don't even realize that, they're on. They just think the gas is going to last forever. But there were so many downed trees in the area, our trucks physically could not get to them. There was a lady up on the mountain and we kept checking her monitor and we were like, if they don't get the trees out of the way, she's going to run out of gas. Her generator is going to go off and she won't be able to have her oxygen supply. So we took it upon ourselves to go cut the trees so that our truck could get there to get gas in her tank to make sure she was okay throughout the storm because she's an elderly lady with no family close by to check on her.
Hmm.
So we were able to help her, and it felt great to help her. But if we hadn't had that monitor and she had ran out of gas, no telling what could have happened to her because of her family not being close by. So these monitors are almost like a lifesaver.
Yeah, it's the second layer to the work you're already putting into the forefront in terms of keeping your automatic customers filled. This is just the second layer and letting them know that you're taken care of and you have that real time insight to always know what's going on with their tank. And there's a big misconception that the end user doesn't care about this, that they only want to be having a filled tank and that's it. But I mean, as you've experienced and as you've had success with, the end user does care about this. They do want to know that they've got a second layer to your already system for automatic fills, and that they can view it alongside you in a mobile app, take care of their grandparents, whatever it may be. There's many opportunities for you to use this as a competitive advantage and letting the customer know that you're going to take care of them better than the other provider because you've got solutions such as tank monitors in place.
Yes,
Um,
a lot of our competition and other businesses that are around us are not offering the monitoring service quite yet. And I've had so many people come to me and say, "Hey, I would pay a yearly fee just so I don't have to worry about it. It's all on you. I don't even care if I look at it, but I want you to check my tank because I don't want to run out of gas."
mhm. Yeah, and for every percent of monitors you sell or get the customer to chip in for on top of the efficiency you're already having, that's just more and more to your bottom line.
Yeah, and we charge the fee, but what they don't realize also is they're actually helping us as well because every day I see their monitor. So
Yep.
I kind of can see the weather in their area as well. So it's kind of like they're helping me out with the revenue part and kind of with my routing part as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got countless stories of how these monitors have helped out in odd situations. You mind sharing one or two? Maybe the gas leak story or the
Oh,
story about the
yeah.
person stealing propane. I think the crowd would love to hear that.
Yeah, last week, so we have a company and we have 5 1,000 gallon tanks there. One of those tanks is just for filling Hyster tanks. Um, so I came in one morning and I was like, wait a minute, they were on 24% yesterday. Why are they on 0.89% now? And that monitor actually reads every 6 hours. I have it set to read more often just because they are such a large user.
Yep.
I was doing the math and I was like, wait a minute, that's a lot of gas in a little bit of time. That was about 250 gallons. So I automatically send my guys out, leak check, leak check, leak check. Leak tested everything. No smell of gas. And they were like, what's going on? So luckily, that company has cameras. And it just so happens one of their employees had pulled in that night and had 10 100-pound tanks,
Man.
filled them all up, and left. That guy no longer has a job, but that's just another way that you can monitor things. I mean, not only are we monitoring so we know when to fill it, but when you have a drop like that, there's either a leak or something fishy's going on. And like I say, that was pretty wild. I never had that, never thought about that happening. But yeah, that business actually caught a employee stealing their gas.
Wow. So tank monitors are also a security guard, a theft protection as well. Uh,
Oh yes, yes, because they would have never known.
we'll need to start promoting that as well. Who would have?
Yes.
I just want to jump in here because we have a question from one of our participants on the webinar. And I just want to remind everybody that if you're listening, feel free to chat in your questions and we'll try to answer them. But this question comes from Todd, and he wants to ask Stephanie, do you charge all of your customers for the monitor or do you pick and choose? Do you find it hard to charge for a monitor when it benefits the company as much as the customer?
Actually, on our customers, one thing we offer, for churches and businesses, restaurants, that kind of thing, we do not charge for a monitor fee just because we want to give them that added security and that added advantage of, hey, this company is going to provide us with monitoring at no cost. And then the people that have the pool heaters, generators, multi-homes, and then even my one lady that has a 100-gallon tank and says, I don't want to walk down the hill to see if I have gas, so put a monitor on it and I'll pay you. I have a lot of people that they have no problem paying that one yearly fee so that they have the security and I have to worry about it, not them. So no, I don't really have a problem with people saying they don't want to pay for it, especially like people that say, oh no, I don't want to pay for it. And then when they run out, they're like, yeah, do you still offer that? And a lot of times it's when they run out, it's when they decide, hey, if you got that, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, there's a misconception that the end user doesn't care about this stuff in the propane industry, but people these days really do want their services in life to be similar across the board. They want their propane service today to be like going to Starbucks, to be like going to Apple, to be like shopping on Amazon. And tank monitoring and mobile app technology is that solution for the propane industry. We've got customers who make monitors mandatory for all generators. You want to be on a generator with Prince Gas, you're getting it. You want to be an automatic customer and you're only a generator with Prince Gas, you're gonna buy a tank monitor because you're my biggest headache during the worst time of the year. Think about
Exactly. And they don't really fuss about it. They're actually like, you know what, we really appreciate that. And like I say, it saved that lady's life up on top of the mountain.
sure did.
Stephanie, how do you charge? How do you go about figuring out your pricing structure? So when you sell tank monitoring services to customers, is it usually a yearly fee? Is it an annual fee? You don't need to get into too much detail about the pricing itself. Maybe Raj, you can probably provide some expertise on that with your experience working with customers. But how do you kind of structure that, Stephanie?
What I do is we just charge a yearly fee. Actually, they're getting ready to go out next month. And I'll just send out a bill for their yearly fee. There's usually never anybody that says, "Hey, come get it. I don't want to pay for it anymore." It's more like I should order more monitors. And then, like, whenever we go put the monitor on, I do charge us a service call so that, our installers get paid for their time to go out and put the monitor on. But that yearly fee, I mean, it helps to recoup the cost of the monitor as well as, the monitoring fee for us. And, it just gives me that added security. And as far as, people paying, they don't seem to mind. They like to be able to know when they look at their telephone how much gas is in their tank.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like what we're seeing and what you're hinting on is that you know your customers best. You know what they're receptive to based on your charges that you're already passing to them and stuff. And so we typically just recommend gauging your customer base based on what your knowledge is. Uh, and there's always going to be a segment of your customers that doesn't put up a fight with this. The second homeowners, the generators, the pool heaters, the new homeowners who love technology and just want another app on their phone. Those people you can typically put this in there for no pushback. We see people typically charging either a monthly or a yearly fee of the cost of the monitor, or like a $4 to $12, so you can break even per month. Again, you know your customers the best and you know what they'll be receptive to. If you're able to get anything back from the customer on a high usage account, that's just a double bonus. You're already getting the efficiency benefits by saving on deliveries with that customer, and having them chime in is just an extra added benefit at the end of the day of that.
Great. Now, Stephanie and Raj too, actually, do you have any experience with customers having issues with connectivity? What would you kind of recommend with that?
Yeah, so speaking to Steph directly, when Steph got started with us, we only had our 2G monitor, and 2G down in her area of South Carolina had been being taken down by Verizon. But as we realized that, that's right around when our LTE monitor came out. And Steph can chime in on this, but the LTE monitor down in South Carolina and across the US is given much better capability, connectivity capabilities. Steph, feel free to chime in. But
Well, I was going to say, Raj, it's kind of funny, when we first got the monitors and they weren't the LTEs, my dad and I were like, we're really going to test this company. We want to see what Tank Utility can do. So we're going to take this monitor to the one place where you have absolutely no cell phone service and see if we can read that tank. So we went way out in the woods. We have a customer way out there, and he was wanting a monitor. So we put it on this tank, and I kid you not, it took about 5 to 7 minutes for it to, finally catch. And I'd even called Tank Utility, and I was like, I'm sorry, my cell phone service is horrible, but are you seeing this monitor? And, in and out, phone cutting off, that kind of thing. And then it wasn't, like I say, 5, 7 minutes, it finally caught. And I was like, okay, if these things can read on this guy's house, we can get it from anybody's house.
yeah, the 2G network, it connected, and the LTE network just gave us more stability there, and we've had success with it. So I'm glad we were able to connect with that original monitor.
We were very surprised. We were like, we're gonna throw a wrench in it, but we weren't able to.
Yeah,
That's
well,
great.
We're coming up on time, and I think we have one more question that we'd like to address before we wrap it up. Christine?
Yeah, so that's really interesting what you're saying, Stephanie, about the connectivity. And we also just want to mention, we also have the Wi-Fi option for those who want to connect to the home networks. So that is available as well. But let's wrap this up. We have one more question. And Stephanie, this is kind of about your will call versus automatic. And how do you determine who gets a tank monitor? Do you only monitor the automatic or keep full customers, or how do you determine where you put the tank monitors on which customers?
Yeah, unless you are a generator or pool heater or multi-home user, the only people that get a monitor put on at no cost are people that are on the keep fill, and some of them don't even know there's a monitor on their tank because we're using it for our benefit. They're not there when we put it on. They don't even know it's on there. So that's kind of how we do it. But yes, only if you're a will call and you want a tank monitor, you do have to pay the yearly fee. But like I say, a lot of people don't have a problem with paying it. I mean, it's just the added convenience, and for the cost, it's really worth paying, so you have that security.
Great. Well,
Right.
Steph, it has been excellent hearing from you today. Love learning about your business and love hearing about the impact tank monitors have been able to have down there. We appreciate your time and look forward to a bright and even better future. And we want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us today. If you've got any questions or would like any follow-up, again, we'll be sending out this webinar as a recording for all of those that have signed up. But if you've got any questions, please feel free to email us, marketing@tankutility.com, or give us a buzz with the number below. But thanks again. And Steph, thank you. Everyone have a good
Thanks, Raj.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Raj, Stephanie. Thank you both for joining us. And yeah, thank you to all of our participants. As Raj said, feel free to give us an email or shoot us an email, give us a call. And we'd be happy to answer any more of your questions after this.